Okay, so my name is Pedro da Fonseca. In short, who I am from Namibia. I was born and raised in Namibia. I was born in a refugee camp many moons away, many moons ago. And growing up in a refugee camp, we weren't exposed to a lot. You know, the biggest thing I saw once I left the refugee camp was sliced bread, and this is the honest truth. Being in the refugee camp, we were fed food by the army, so we used to get full loaves. You know, so if you cut a loaf with a bread knife, you can only feed like what 4 people on a loaf. You know, cut such thick slices. So when we finally got to buy bread, they put it in a machine and it cut it in slices. That was the most amazing thing in our lives. You know, me and my cousin, we ran back and we told my grandmother, "Look, sliced bread," and she said, "Who did this?" So that's actually where it all started for me, honestly. And from there, my parents are refugees from Angola. So because of the civil war on that side, they migrated to Namibia, and that's how we ended up in a refugee camp. But then we were taken into Namibia, adapted it, and we grew there. So I finished my primary school, high school, very good, happy upbringing, and then I did electrical engineering. I studied here in South Africa, in Cape Town, and went as far as my master's in electrical engineering. I then moved back to Namibia. I was working for a copper mining company called Danny Precious. I think I worked for them for about 6 years. And during this time, I had a lot of time to actually, being the engineer. I started off as a junior engineer and I ended up as a resident engineer. It was a bit challenging because of everything they put forward to you and so forth. So with the challenges we had and with what we did, I actually started looking at better lighting solutions, because that's one of the key problems that we had at the mine. It was a very serious problem. I mean, the mine was racking up. For example, you get penalized for not having right lighting standards for people to work in. Okay, the government comes and they do audits on your standards of work and so forth. And if your labor force is working in unsatisfying conditions, you get fined. You know, so they were paying about 350,000 a month on fines to rectify the working standards. And one of these were the lights. So as you know, with mines, they've got lights everywhere. And to change all the lights, they're looking at a bill of about 10 million, you know. So we were looking at trying to rectify that possibly the best way. And I was there looking at my things myself. And then I came up with an invention. So what I got here is my actual LED light. Okay, so my company is called Black Gold Engineering. The flyer is just a sort of a product brochure to share with what we do and so forth. But this is my actual invention. So to tell you what I did here is firstly what makes this an invention is that I took LED lights and I put the lights on the same circuit as my power circuit. Normally LEDs share 2 different circuits. They've got lights on the one side and they've got an inverter or power unit on the other side. Because LEDs work with only 25, 50, 12, very low voltage. Okay, what I did is I took the heavy components in lighting, ballast, capacitor, igniter, and reduced them into ICs, integrated circuits, which is this black things you guys see here. And then I plotted my LEDs, which are also diodes, and they regulate themselves. So with such a circuit, you get brighter lights at 220 volts direct current. So the higher the voltage, the lower the current. So we actually came up with something that uses very little power and gives off very high lights, brighter lights, and lasts you a lot longer. And it's all printed behind an aluminum backplate to help with the heat regulation. And you just pass this around for you guys to have a look. So, so the lights are called NAMLAX. NAMLAX just stands for Namibian Lights. And I didn't know what I had until I patented with BIPA in Namibia and ARIPO, which is the Governing Board of Africa. And then I was invited all over the world to showcase my lights. A few places here in Africa and internationally. We have been to a few stages, South Korea, England. We have won quite a few accolades as well. One of them that I'm most proud of is being the Creative Business Ambassador for Africa. What that means is that being a creative person, you need to inspire other Africans, and we're not just looking at artists, musicians, fashion designers. These are not just creative people. Creativity is any idea you have that you can apply in our world today and change and influence the lives of people around us. And having an invention like this with the impact that it has, we are able to actually impact a wide variety of people and not just a set group. It's not like I came up with a new hairstyle and this is what people are wearing or something. So the first thing we did is we fashioned those lights into street lights. My street light is, my street light has got the capabilities of reducing electrical costs of up to 70%. For me to try and explain to you what they do, what they do is your conventional street light, your normal street light, uses about 2 amps of electricity. Okay? My street light uses 10 times less. I use 0.21 amps. In other words, to put it in layman's terms, right? If you've got a machine and you need to feed this machine coins to keep the light going, you would be putting 2 rands into this machine every minute, right? Now I come and I put up my light, and now all you need to do is feed this machine 20 cents. If you guys understand the concept, right? So that's how it reduces the cost in it. Now, by reducing the cost, it's because we consume less electricity. So as you guys know, streetlights consume the most electricity. If you have your house with everything on, TV, stove, whatever you want on, the most you will spend in units is 38 units a day, right? And this is if you have everything running in 24 hours, okay? A street light runs for 12 hours, from 7 to 7, and it consumes 142 units in 12 hours. So you guys can see the difference in it. Okay, if you run my light for 12 hours, you will be looking at consuming about 4.5 units. So that's the difference that we bring to the game. It is twice as bright as what our conventional street lights have out there. And it is actually, it's something that the community can benefit of. If our governments go and change all our street lights, with us proving 70% reduced costs, they will save 70% of the costs, and they can redirect that into developing, infrastructure, electrical infrastructure development, and so forth. I mean, if I had to talk about Africa, Europe is 112% electrified. 112. How do we get that? It's because of their naval offshore islands and underground seawater bases for their submarines. Okay, they've got so much power and light down there that it compares to us. Africa is only 55% electrified, and where I'm from, we're only 40% electrified. Namibia, And as much as you guys think South Africa is properly electrified, you guys only have 70% of your country actually that has power. Well, the other 30% is still commendable because the rest of Africa isn't on that level. So if you take such kind of comparatives and you can now reduce the biggest consumer of everyday lighting, which is your street lights, to get savings from that, we would actually be able to upgrade all these different standards. So NAMLUX is not really just a solution for right now, it's actually a solution to grow Africa and to have us cross these boundaries. So that's what I came to learn and grow and like. And we are, at this moment, we only assemble our street lights. I've got a patent for both the fitting as well as the light itself. So I've got non-disclosure agreements with South Korea who are helping me print my lights, and China who are helping me print my fittings. So, and then these come back to Namibia and we assemble them there and then from there we ship them to where they need to be, or whoever needs to use them. So hopefully we will become fully fledged in the next 24 to 36 months. That's the next 2 to 3 years, and we'll be able to actually to hold all the components to actually manufacture everything on site. Yeah, saying that, we are actually the only African-owned light manufacturing company. Okay, everything else. To tell you, funny enough, we had a conference called SACRI, the Southern African Energy Efficiency Conference, and a guy from Switzerland told us that. We're sitting in Africa, and this guy is coming from Switzerland. He tells us that the only lighting companies in Africa belong to Europeans, Asians, and Indians. Well, Chinese and Indians, he says. And Black Gold Engineering is the only one who's actually registered as a light manufacturing company. So even in South Africa, all the manufacturing you guys have here, because I'm only assembling here, their headquarters and everything are all in Europe. You know, Eurolux, Osram, whatever you can think of, they're all from abroad. They just have depots here. So we are actually breaking through with that, and that is one of our, that's one of our attributes that we've got here.
That sounds so cool. That sounds so exciting. I'm really just so excited about Africa actually being part of inventions and us actually taking part in innovation. So Pedro's company is really at the forefront of all of that. Pedro, I want you to show everyone the light, because Pedro went through the effort of bringing it here for you guys to see. It's right there.
So I'll put this on for you guys in a minute. This light fitting was produced for us by China. So what happened is, when I first spoke to China about the light fitting, they took into account that I am a customer, and you always have to go the extra mile for your customer. For example, you tell me, listen, I need street lights from here to here, and but I need you to provide me with the street lights and put it in and everything. So you go out and you tell them, listen, for that you will need the poles, cables, and. So you give them a whole drawer of what it would actually look like and what it would actually cost them. So the same thing happened in China. They told me, okay, we can do this for you. What do you want? So I told them what I wanted. So they just heard LED light and a light fitting for my LED light. So they did extra calculations. So if I've got a light that can actually do this and produce this, this means that I will need an inverter to run my light of a certain size, right? So they made me an LED fitting that we take an inverter that is as big as my forearm, right? Because that is what the calculation showed. And I told them, no, my guys, I have reduced all of that. I don't need an inverter. I've got onboard chip lighting, which is my lights. Therefore, my design came out a lot bigger than it's supposed to. But we have since rectified the problem. In the next month and a half, hopefully, we should have our new consignments in Africa for our new lights. So the first wasn't a mistake, right? It was them going above and beyond for the client. Only they didn't understand the client's product, till I actually flew down there and we actually had a proper one-on-one and everything. But I understand what they did, and but still for me, I'm happy for it. Okay? This is our light. This is the Namlux street light. As you can see, it takes 3 of our light fittings in there. And the connection is so simple.
Wow.
It's just a 2.5 millimeter cable straight onto my lights. Okay. The inverter was supposed to come in here. Hence all this space they got in here. So this is how big of an inverter they wanted to sell me to run my light as well.
Wow.
So you guys can imagine, all that power over here is gone because my lights do everything. So with that as well, you don't need a variac. For example, if you want to switch on a street light on the ground, you need a variac, a potentiometer. It means you actually have to step it up for more than 230 volts for it to actually compensate and switch the light on. With my light, I can actually plug it straight into the wall, 220 volts, and it will work perfectly. I just need to say at this height, It's just more blinding than anything else. But I hope you guys get a feel for it. Oh, you do that. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I got it.
Sorry. So
Okay,
just
are you ready?
switch that off first.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you can push it all the way.
Okay, guys, are you ready?
Okay.
There we go. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
switch it on. That's my street lights. So yes, you guys.
Yeah, I want to go black. Yes,
It is.
definitely black.
It is pretty powerful, pretty blinding, and the fact that we got so much light out of one little rose is actually what is surprising to a lot of people. In South Korea, when I won my first award, well, I think it was the second by then, first international award, they read about me. They have the Seoul International Inventors Fair, happens every year. They take inventions that they deem are inventions and they invite you over. So it was the first time in 12 years they had an African on that platform. And we won Best Engineering Project. They didn't believe the light could do what I said it could do. So when I got there, they hung it for 72 hours. They had their precision meters and everything. And obviously, we scored better results than what we did with our African meters. And they awarded us, and they gave me the award. And one thing they asked me was, what were you thinking? You know, and I told them that have you guys ever driven home in the evening? You guys never look up at streetlights until it's off, you know, and then it's what on earth is going on here. And I told them that because you guys are so lit, you guys generate your own power. There's no reason to improve your lights, you know, it's good enough. It's not good enough for us. Our tariffs are high, we don't produce our own electricity, we have to import it, buy it, and so forth. And there is a need to try and look at better lighting. So this is where I came from. And saying that, they all wished me good luck and they were so happy and they said, look, you're going to go far. But being in Africa, it sort of limits us, you know, and this is the problem that we have. I said no to a lot of investors, and the biggest investors were in the UK, Italy, so forth. They wanted me to relocate and sell my patents and head the company for them, you know, and General Electric's UK made me an offer for me to move over, take over their head units and so forth. And they made me an offer, and the guy told me right there, cash offer. And I smiled, and I told him, look, you guys have a problem in Scotland, Glasgow, you know? If I sell you a solution, rather lights for your solution, you guys will pay me £1 billion, right? So screw you with your offer, Africa first. So setting this up in Africa gives us leverage. But the problem is that our own people here, government and so forth, they are used to a certain kind of way of doing things, a demographic of doing things. And this is that they took over from their predecessors. Their predecessors ordered from wherever, so they keep that same line. They overlook us, manufacturers, business people in Africa, because they think that we are substandard, we are mediocre. The honest truth is, if you're looking for an investor or a bank to finance your project, they ask you, do you know who your competitors are? How do you match up with your competitors? What are you going to do to have the leg up, you know? So that's all you study, that's all you do for you to come up in front. Right? I told people that I have bested all my competitors. I've got awards. Google me. Yet they don't invest in you know? I'm most probably gonna sell my light to overseas foreigners before African countries actually buy from me in the volumes that we want them to buy. And this is the truth. So Europe is going to keep winning until we actually change that mentality. And that is what is debilitating for a lot of startups and so forth. We don't believe in our own product and our own people. That's how we fall short. Yeah. So guys, thank you very much for having me, man.
Pedro, I have a question.
Sure.
So my next question to you is, what drove you to actually become an entrepreneur? Because Pedro actually was an electrical engineer and he had a high-paying job and he was sorted. He was working in the mines, he was was earning a salary every single month, and he chose the entrepreneurial route. So, what drove you to become an entrepreneur?
Firstly, when you have something like this in your hands, you know, you need to dedicate your time to it as well. I mean, if I would have just shoved this in a corner and forgotten about it, I wouldn't have grown with it. The thing is that as we went along with it, it started becoming so demanding that I actually needed my 8 hours in the day to call people, relevant people, to actually take this further. You know, I was calling people in Texas, in Japan, and so forth, for us to come up with better solutions. I had problems with the overheating of the light, firstly, stabilizing it, regulating it, all these kind of things. And my research was coming out of my own pocket and everything. So I actually started using the resources at work to make it happen, and work started becoming a hindrance to my growth in my company. So I was like, I need to move. But the honest truth is that I could see a potential of growth here. So I was chasing greatness. I still am chasing greatness. You see, if you chase greatness, success follows, and money always follows that. So that's not the worry for me. It wasn't the money, it was to be able to get your name out there. Because one thing I always say is I want to get my name on an airport. People ask me, why an airport? The thing is that it doesn't matter who you are. If you're coming and you're landing in that airport, you know which airport you're landing on, right? I mean, you're coming to Joburg, you're landing at... So you guys are going to be landing at Pedro International Airport. People are going to Google me. People are going to know about me, and that's its legacy. That's its lineage. You know, my kids will travel to Osaka one day, and they will be like, "The Fonseca like it." Yeah, I like that guy. You know, so and with that comes everything else. You know, I shared a few quotes with Chuma. I was telling her that Warren Buffett says, "Being a millionaire is for people who found nothing but a job to do. Being a billionaire is for dreamers who kept on dreaming." If you look at that statement, take 3 of our biggest dreamers, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and who's the Facebook guy? Okay, these 3 dropped out of school, started their own companies in the garages, you know, and then they make millions. And then they hired more people, they kept working towards their dream, and they made billions. They're currently top 3 richest in the world, but they're still making billions. None of them have stopped, none of them have become comfortable, none of them have seen the need to slow down, because they're not chasing money, they're chasing greatness. They're chasing dreams, do you understand? They're working without thinking of what they're gonna get in the end. They're working with the means of achieving what it is they want to achieve. The only problem with a dreamer is that you can always add on to the dream, you know, it doesn't end there. You know, so me walking away from my job that was paying properly to not even seeing 10% of that a month, you know, going through some serious problems where me and my wife had the talk of, you know, maybe just go back to work, you know, and say sorry to your boss. And things got pretty tough, you know, but you need to fight through it. Your very first, your biggest support is the very same people who will be your biggest debilitators in the beginning. When I told my family, listen, I'm leaving work, I've got 3 sons. I got a 9-year-old, he turned 9 last week, Saturday, and I got a set of twins. They're 2 and they're gonna turn 3 next week, Friday. Okay? So the twins were just born. And my parents were like, how are you going to feed the children? And I told them, look, if I don't leave now, I'll never leave. I jumped into the river both feet. I didn't even test the water. It got me so off guard. I actually fell, hands and knees, you know, before we could actually stand again. But I appreciate actually not taking off as fast as I thought I would, because it didn't teach me enough, you know. Going through what I did and what I went through now has taught me so much, you know, actually all these challenges. I can today sit on a table with a few of other successful people, and we can actually share the exact same stories, because that's what entrepreneurship is about, you know. These entrepreneur guys who firstly messed up the banking system for us, you know, loans and whatever, now you need to come with your mom and dad's birth certificates and everything. Jesus Christ, now they're asking for everything. But before that, you talk to one of these entrepreneurs, they fallen from grace. You tell them, hey, so what happened? It's like, been there, done that, I'm happy where I am now. And those people will teach you nothing. Okay, that is a person who is not proud enough to try to build himself up. Okay? Success is a bill that's due every day. If you don't do something towards it daily, you will fail. All right? So it's a bill that's due every day. It's very demanding. Do you know how hard it is to stay on top? You need to keep relevant. You need to keep a clientele going. So besides having this and getting it to a level where we want it, we need to actually either keep it there or keep it going higher, greater. You understand? You can't stop. You'll fall short. And that's how people wake up broke the next day. They feel they've made it, they're on cloud nine, they can relax. And that is not what it takes. It's, you make it part of your life. It's part of breathing. You have to stick to it. You have to fight for it. And if you can't motivate yourself every morning like that, you'll go nowhere. You wake up in the morning. The bank told me, yeah, you know what, Pedro, we are all for it. We understand your dream. We want to support you. So we are going to give you a loan with no collateral, 5 million, and you got 3 years to pay us back. I was like, geez, this is the breakthrough we were waiting for. I came home, I told him and everything. I was so excited and whatnot. And finally, things are loosening up. Only to get a call 3 days later, and they were like, actually, we can't do the 5 million. Do you guys know how? And then you're sitting with situations where you've put yourself into so much debt, and your company, and you got people calling you daily, but you still need to get up, and you still need to put that one foot forward, and everybody just keeps asking you, so you can even hear it in their voice, how's it going? But that is entrepreneurship. If it was easy, everybody would have done it. Yeah. So one foot forward and keep going. All I can say is you are your own motivation. You do have everybody. I have my lovely wife here who's been pushing and holding the fort and everything. It's not easy, especially when you have to look at buying diapers and milk as well. And electricity is almost finished. But it helps when they're there to motivate, and I'll give you all that and everything. But then you yourself, you also got to be strong enough to push through all of that. You have to keep telling yourself, I'm good enough. Yeah.
Sure, Pedro. I think funding is such a major problem with running a business, and when you don't have the experience and you don't have financial backing from investors, then it does really become a challenge. So I want to know, what have been your biggest challenges so far as a company?
Well, funding, like was mentioned. For example, I had a problem with investors. They have the money, they're ready to invest. The problem is that they want to take on big shares. For example, the most rubbish agreement I heard of was I went to go meet this guy, and he told me, listen, because of my influence and who I am and I can go to the bank and I will sign surety on behalf of the company. The company will get the funds that it needs to start up, but I'll take 70%. So I looked at him and I told him, you're going to sign surety. In other words, surety means that if the company doesn't pay this, you're going to cover the bill, right? But you are obviously going to do all you can, and I am going to do all I can to make sure this company is successful and we pay that bill. In other words, you're going to get 70% because of your influence. And then I'm still going to pay that money back through the company and pay you 70%. In other words, I'm going to slave for you and the loan. Well, you need to understand, Pedro, I'm a venture capitalist. This is how we make money. And I was like, rubbish. Just utter nonsense, And the thing is that we were in situations where I was actually desperate, but you need to know what you're going for. For example, like I was studying Chuma this morning, 4 months behind on rent, I was facing eviction. And out of nowhere, my ex-employer calls me and tells me, hey, Pedro, we are actually in the market for an engineer, so he's looking at coming back. I was like, Holy Ghost fire. Not today. They come at the most pressing times, and you need to. So you're battling all these all at the same time. So you keep pushing to get yourself investor ready, but you don't know the type of people that are out there. These guys, they love the idea, they love the concept, but they're not in it for you, they're in it for themselves. This man is willing to put down money, but he can see his investment come back in such a way that he can actually kick back and relax, and he wants to ride on your back for it. So by giving up working an actual day job where they tell you are working for me, to being under the illusion that it's my company, but you're paying all this money to your investor, it's the same thing. It's just hidden. You just have to be able to look at what's happening, look at what's going on. So took us about 3 years, to find the right investor and everything, say no to people in Abu Dhabi, say no to people around the world for their contributions and investment offers, to waiting until we actually found the right investor who actually had a vision with us. And we signed a 36-month agreement. So if we don't make things happen in 36 months, they're just going to pull out and write it off as a bad investment. You see, so I'm looking at such kind of potential. The fact that they're going to do all they can also to come on board hand in hand. And they own 40% of my company now. So having that kind of investment, it was worth the wait. Because now the warehouse is busy setting up, we're busy employing people, we've got potential offtake agreements, not just in the country, but around the country and everything. The only government I haven't pitched to yet in Africa, I would say, is South Africa. Yeah, because South Africa says, South Africa first, second, third, fourth, fifth, then maybe they'll look at the sixth, which is a foreigner. I know the municipal guy I was talking to was joking, but he says that they will actually look at outsourcing locally before they look across borders. The fact that they want to cut out importing, so you guys, so I told them, you guys are importing out of Africa, that's different, We SADC, it's like saying you guys are telling me that, no, SADC must depend on me and not me from them, so. But like, yeah, well, it just depends on how you look at it. But I do know that if we start a movement, you guys may join. so I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried. I mean, who wouldn't love to get a contract in Joburg? I mean, you guys have 5 million streetlights, Yeah. So that's a small part of it. But also with this economic crunch that we're going through, it's very hard because we have negotiated deals with municipalities and so forth, only for them to come back and tell us, listen, we'll have to put it on hold because it's not part of the budget for this year. Maybe we look at making it part of the budget for next year. It slows you down, but it doesn't stop you, So these are minor problems that we face, but it's not discouraging. We're still pushing on. Things still look pretty fruitful. Yeah.
I'm just thinking how that's so ironic, like how we as South Africa are acting like such big shots when our streets are actually dark. So if we're saying that the lights aren't in the budget, that means we're planning on being in the dark for a bit and spending a lot on the lights for quite some time. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, government officials would rather cough up 700 million on a new parastatal building than actually fix roads and put up lights. They feel that they have accomplished something where they are going to sit in and do their deliberations and
Sure.
Not taking anything away from them, but.
Pedro, I want to ask you about the lessons you've learned in being a part of the entrepreneurial space and startups in Africa. What can you tell us about what you as a person and your company have gone through? Like, what have you learned?
So what I've learned is it's focus. Okay, you need to be focused on what you want. Okay, I had a book was yellow. It was written there, Power Focus. Power Focus. It had a few business people on it. It was all about understanding what you want and going towards it. You will get swayed left and right. You need to keep your point of focus. I have met a lot of people on stages and so forth. In Kenya, I met two very bright companies that started with inventions, right? The one guy invented, what they did is they collected all plastic rubbish around their vicinities that it filled up a warehouse. And then they got a machine that was donated to them that actually melts all this plastic, and then it sort of makes a ribbon, silicon-based ribbon, that they were then making piles and piles of it. And then they didn't know what they could use it for. So an American organization came over and told them, no, you can actually use this for 3D printing. So they were donated a 3D printer. So with this 3D printer, they learned how to do some mixes to harden the plastics. They actually started making plastic screws and nails that were hard enough to hammer into the wall. Right? And then they started making kiddies blocks and educational toys, but then they went further. Started making do-it-yourself, everyday industrial things like door hinges. So for example, there was a building that was being constructed, and they said, we would like to sell you guys all the screws, nails, and door hinges you would need to put up. And that's how they started their business. It was such a small look, at it. So they didn't have to order their things from IKEA and so forth. They bought it straight from the boys. And that was the offtake from their thingy. So besides looking at the idea and what they got and how they turned it into a business concept and started making business out of it, that's brilliant. So we do have brilliant people out here in Africa. The only problem is that a lot of us don't share the same passion. We are all just hungry. We're all hungry for the first guy to come and buy our idea. I mean, everybody here is waiting for that investor to come from Europe and take you. You guys heard of Strive Masuba, right? The Zimbabwean guy with the fiber. He was bought by Vodacom Germany. So he's in Germany now. He's been in Germany for the past 14 years. Okay. So Strive came up with a fiber link for Ethernet. So they bought the idea from him and moved him up to Germany. He's heading the company that actually makes and sells these and everything. Strive is worth £10 million. His company, the department he works for, that is his invention that they bought from him, is worth close to £15 billion. And he still works for them. Okay? He flies to Africa and he gives some talks, and he's the owner of actually this e-power stuff and whatever. So he's trying a few things. It's all good. It's just that he sold out. I feel that he would have made a lot more here. Would have been a lot greater here. They noticed where they can use him there, and then they started back to Africa as well, 10 times the price. You see, he could have surpassed Aliko Dangote. You get me? The thing, that's the problem about Africa, and these are the life lessons that we have. We always look at rather giving up and going somewhere else than actually trying to make it ourselves. And that's one of the things we should actually address with our own African brothers. That's a lesson that I've learned, that we are too quick to give up. And I don't blame us. I mean, it's the supports and everything, it's poor. But imagine if you make it here. You know how good it is to have Europe call you in Africa to order? I mean, it feels good for me when they call me and they're like, hey, Pedro, we're inviting you over to London for a talk at the Commonwealth. And you're like, oh, wow, what have I done that's so great? But they heard of you, and it's a different kind of. So that I've learned to actually stick it through, run through it. Doesn't matter how hard the road gets, it's going to get better. And with it, the rewards are greater.
Because I was saying, you always hear of these African inventors and how this is the first of its kind and it's coming from Africa and we all get excited and then down the line we wonder whatever happened to that person. So meaning that person took gave the 70% to the investor and then they're not recognized anymore as a person owning the patent.
Yeah, because you see, once you sell your patent, there's the Pupkowitz offer. So Pupkowitz calls me and they want to be sole distributors for the next 5 years of my lives. And then they tell me, better yet, we want to buy into the project, okay? We want to give you a warehouse. We want to get you working. We want to, we want to give you 3.5 million because we know you're going through something as a business startup. Matter of fact, we'll even give you a car of your choice. I was like, what? Seriously? They're like, yes, we need to compensate you for all this hard work that you've been, whatever. And then, we talk business. So I was like, wow, okay. So I had a financial advisor called Christina. She's like, we'll think this over. So I come home with all smiles. And then me and Christina sit down with the lawyer. And she said, they're going to what? Compensate you, Pedro. Do you know what that means? That means that you've worked so hard to make this, right? And now they're going to give you 3.5 million as compensation. What do you think they're compensating you for, Pedro? They're not even part of your income. If you take money as compensation, even though it's not signed, it means they now own shares with you in whatever it is you own. So they would have automatically had shares just because I accepted the money. So they were telling me they're going to compensate me 3.5 million, get myself in order, organize myself. They're going to give me a car, they're going to whatever, and then we talk business next month. They just wanted me to say yes. As soon as that money hits my contract, as soon as that money hits my account, doesn't matter what I do, they now have shares in my patent. That means that I cannot make a single move without consulting them. And all the court is going to ask me is, were you compensated? And you'll be like, yes, but game over. So it was like 3.5 million, Pedro. It's like, go back to the UK, man. So I was like, nonsense. They almost had me, hey? Because I was just like, wow, finally somebody understands. Nonsense. They understand the game. They know what it takes to get to where you are. They've been following. They're more than happy to take this on. They just know how to get the best from you at the most lowest price. It will cost them nothing, right? If I sell 1,000 of my lights out of turned over 4 million, actually 4.5 million, and these guys are giving me 3.5 million to be part of my patent, I had no idea. I felt so cheated. I was so upset. I was thankful actually that I had a second person in there just to hear, because hearing from the outside is easier. I was blinded by that because it was a shock. We need to be able to overlook these kind of things and to understand.
And that just also shows how important it is to have people with knowledge and industry experience on what ways people come at you to try and get your money.
Yeah.
So if you have those advisors on your team, then you're protected from the beginning.
I did have actually a few advisors and a very strong team behind me, and I recognized that I was purely engineering. There was people who were sitting in boardrooms discussing me and my product right there, and I didn't understand what was said, because they were talking about all these financial terms and whatevers and mortgages and payback whatevers, and I was just like, geez, man, I need to pick up a book and study business now, But then I decided that's nonsense, get people who are in the know, pay them if need be, make them part of the team so that they can help you cover what you need to cover. You cannot run everything by yourself. You cannot run everything by yourself.
And people often do that to try and save costs because they think, I'm starting off, I need to focus all my money from the get-go on my product.
Yeah, you got self-sabotage, right?
Yeah.
It honestly is self-sabotage. At least I'm busy running my business right now from my phone, but things are still going because we've got competent people on the other side taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So it might be at a cost, but then you need to spend money to make money.
That's true. This is the last question now from my side. I just want to know, before I open it to the floor, and then you guys get to ask Pedro what's on your mind. Pedro, so what I want to know now is where to from here for Black Gold? What's the aim? What's the vision? What's the plan for the future?
So we were looking at growing national, regional, international, and globally. So the plan is to entice people in such a way that, come and say I come to South Africa. I don't want to be telling you that, look, we've got this great product, it's coming from Namibia, put it on your streetlights. What I want to say is that if we look at changing the whole of South Africa, I don't know, we're looking at what, 10 million plus lights? I will build a depot here in South Africa where we could see employment come through from that. You know, and then we will supply the material from Namibia to here, and we could have assembly lines where people could actually come in and assemble in those plants, get a salary from that, and we can empower the local entrepreneurs to put up these lights. You know, if a municipality buys 1,000 lights, they've only got 2 trucks. You know, they don't have enough people to go around putting up these lights. So you get the local people around to put up the lights for them, and then the municipality will do the maintenance going forward. It brings value to the city, to the people, to the town, and it uplifts the economy. You know, the government can't do this alone. The only way you can bridge unemployment and all of that is by synergizing with private sector. And this is how you actually get into the market in another country. So you see how big the country is and if it is of influence. So I know South Africa's trade routes are far bigger than anything else inside it. So if I put a depot here, you know, and I'm got my selected few that I am trading from, this depot here will be able to feed a lot more on the other side. You know, so these are the type of offtakes we're trying to get into, type of agreements we're trying to sign. So by being able to open up and exposing ourselves like that, it will help us actually to reach the goals I want to reach, you know, getting a street light up on every street in Africa. Maybe I will surpass Philippa Dangote. You know, but the idea is the growth we're looking at is to limit what I said earlier, that the foreigners abroad would actually buy first and put it out there first. We would like to do it in Africa first. So by doing these trade agreements and trade agreements, it would help us actually get to Africa a lot faster. Any government would want to actually have such a depot in their country to see people getting employment and money coming back into the community. You know, I mean, if I employ 1,000 people and I'm paying 10,000 to these 1,000 people, they will be paying and using that money in the country. You know, so the money doesn't go out; it stays within. The people bring it in and circulates. Instead of ordering lights from UK and all that money goes there and you see nothing. So that's the outreach we're trying to do. So Black Gold is trying to, we're trying to become part of the African community, synergize with that. Once again, greatness. Yeah, but that's what we're looking at, and that's the way we're trying to get out there and be big.
Those are really exciting plans. They're big goals, and I feel they bring employment. Everyone's complaining about how robots are going to take our jobs, and I think people are still going to be putting up lights for a bit. So that would be really great. I really hope you do well and you continue to do such great things, because so many people are watching and Africa's inspired and
No pressure.
No pressure. So I want to give everyone an opportunity to just ask what they want to ask Pedro. Do you have any questions?
Hi, my name is Neil. After turning down an investment, how do you survive? You said it took you 3 years without no proper investment, but then now you're getting 2.2 million or 3.5 million. They're giving you, and you've been struggling with your invention in hand. How do you maintain yourself surviving?
Okay.
And okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
The other question is starting up your business. The money part. Did you get something, or did you save something to start it up from?
Okay. So surviving. Unfortunately, I'm qualified. On top of that, got some experience. So I was doing jobs. I was either doing electrical drawings, calculations, consulting work, or at times I would get a team together and do installation works. You know, I wasn't proud, my guy. You know, if you call me over to fix your fridge, I'm there. You know, that was actually what we had to do to make it happen. As far as starting up the company, yes, I said I was using my salary to feed into my startup. So all the first components I bought and tested and worked with, the different flights I was taking up and down and so forth, was with my own salary at the time and so forth, till I got to a point where I felt that the invention itself can hold its own, you know, and we had meetings with banks and investors and so forth, hopefully getting out there. So with all the promise, I kept working. The one thing that was killing me was the paperwork, but I kept working towards all of this with the hopes that somebody would buy into it very soon. But as soon as you stretch it, 2 months later, funds have run dry, then you need to start looking for a different kind of line of income while we're waiting for this, while we're waiting for that. And so that was how it actually went. So I had to do small agreements, and with whatever money comes in, we survive on this side and we put more of that into the company to see if we can get the company. Until I got to a point where I was investor ready, where I actually had business plan and financial forecasts that made sense for banks to actually look at. You know, before that, they used to tell me, "What? This is nonsense. Get out of here." Yeah, it gets harsh, guys. They kick you out. So you know, wasted 30 minutes of my life. And yeah, so. But yeah, so that's practically what we did.
It's a great invention. I think it's something, LED lighting is something we should be seeing on our streetlights anyway. We're running archaic systems in our, we've inherited it from when they first started putting in streetlights. I mean, you just have to look outside the streetlights we've got here. I think those poles have been up for since streetlights were put in place. What I'd like to find out though, because in Africa specifically, we've got a resource, the sun, which could make us so independent from, we all know the problems that Eskom has and exporting power, and Namibia's importing power, and Zimbabwe's importing power from Eskom, which is a failing institution. And we seem to ignore the fact that we've got this natural resources available to us, and we're so slow to take action. There's a lot happening around Africa with solar power and wind power and so on. What I'd like to find out is from your light, have you got plans to have some kind of solar that it is almost self-sufficient, that it's standalone, all it requires is a pole and a solar panel? I know it's not as simple as that, because even the electricity needs to be stored.
Yeah.
I might have missed part of your talk with running around, but is that part of your planning?
Yes, so we are currently looking at, so I've got an R&D department. Currently it's made up of this one team only. So I am looking at solar. So I have started the calculations for a 12 and 24 volt power unit. So what we're trying to do is we want to put a solar panel on there, and we want to get the battery on there. If you guys see solar streetlights, have you guys seen solar streetlights? What makes solar streetlights so rare and so expensive is the inverter that is in there. The inverter practically converts solar into electricity, and then it stores it in the battery. And then it calls it back from the battery, steps it up to 220 volts, and then feeds the light. So that system alone makes it very expensive. So a solar street light goes anything between 28 and 32,000 per pole. Per pole. So what we're trying to do is, if we get a light that works on 12 or 24 volts, that means that all you need to do is get a transducer. Transducer is something that changes energy from one to the other. So kinetic to electricity, we can get solar to electricity as well. You use a transducer to feed directly into the battery. Okay? And then the battery is locked with a photocell, which is a daylight switch. So as soon as the sun goes off, daylight switch switches on, demands that power from the battery. Battery feeds the light, and the light works directly off the battery, and it switches off. So you know you've got one of these solar batteries with deep cycle and everything, lithium batteries coming out now. So we're actually looking at that. If we can do that, we can actually reduce the price of that to close to 10,000, you know, and then it will be more attractive, because then it's a standalone unit that you can put in rural areas, for example, and leave it working. The only problem with the rural areas is they actually steal the solar panels and they use it as decorations on the bars and as tiles. Heartbreaking, but yeah, we still have to get over that human area. But otherwise, yeah, we are looking at solar. We're looking at solar, and very soon, I just need to get a solid foothold before I anger my competitors. You know.
Are there any private institutions? I know you were talking about the mines in Namibia, because they have their own infrastructure, so it's all privatized. In South Africa, we have a lot of private estates. So from your entry level developments in Bloemfontein, we've got the Nelson Mandela, or the Mandela View. It's called Mandela View, I think, which is a private development as far as I understand. And then we've got, of course, a number of others around the country. But those are potential clients as well for you, I would assume. And then, of course, all the other big infrastructures that require street lighting. So your potential client base is already there. You don't have to worry about naturally, of course, government contracts is a great thing, but there are other ways as well.
Let me give you an idea. How many lights do you think Bloem's municipality would buy just to make a change in Bloem? Yeah, they would have to buy at least 10,000 streetlights. That is that's a huge amount of lights. Whereas a private client can't actually fork out that much, or the development is actually very small. The other thing with private clients is they want to be enticed first. They want a sample, 2 samples. They want to run it for a few months. You know, they want to do their own tests, unless they haven't seen it somewhere. And like I was telling you, have you tried selling a street light to a farmer? Especially LED lights. So a lot of people went out there and they sold LED lights to farmers because they run their own transformer, their own generators. They put it up and they're happy and but then it burns out in 6 months. And they're like, what the hell? It's because it's made in China, not for these temperatures. As soon as it gets a bit hot, you see the inverter in that casing, it's in an aluminum casing. It expands and contracts, starts leaking lithium, and then that goes gone. And then he has to take it off and throw it away. And he gets so upset. So when you come and you say LED lighter, the way he's gonna chase you out of there. So it's the private guys are actually a bit hard. You know, you have to put up samples. You really need to get them to bite into it. Otherwise, they want to see where has it been working. And if you tell them, no, I've got it in such and such mine, they know it's not open to the public. Public can't just go to the mine and check. So they want to see actual, and that's why the private is there, yes, but they're not our immediate guys because of these things.
I don't want to hog the mic, but I had just one last, because I look at your lights and I think it's great. You just touched on something that kind of led me to this last question, and I'll give someone else the microphone. The question is about so we're usually talking about lights made in a different country for different climates coming into Africa in huge temperatures. I mean, never mind our temperatures out in sort of our Kalahari area and in Namibia's desert, and looking at Sahara, so you're looking at north of the equator, going north of it, North Africa, and looking at lighting solutions there. So the big problem is you talk about the variance in temperatures and not being made for the African climate. Then my question to you is about the housing that you're using there at the moment, and how that would stand up to the African sun.
Okay, so firstly what I did is I went and I printed. You guys know what a PCB board is? A motherboard.
Yes.
Yeah, that green plastic thing. My motherboard is an aluminium one. Aluminium because it cools off faster. My whole casing is made out of aluminium. Also because it cools off faster. So the light in itself can handle the temperature and it can cool off faster. So as you can see, the light fitting has got vents and slots inside. This is for when it blows, the temperature can actually regulate and cool off the casing. When it rains, it doesn't go in, it drips around. I've got silicone sealed around the lens and then the cover on top of that so that you get no dust and no insects in there as well. So for Africa, it was made robust this way. And then the other thing is that aluminium is actually very precious. So besides having them up on our streetlights, we will never find them in our oceans or anything because somebody can just come melt it and use it for something else. So while we're doing maintenance on these things, we will actually maintain the lights as well. So we try to look at this. So I have my lights up at Dundee Precious, which is the mine. So we've got a casting area, right? The casting area where they melt the copper at 1,200 degrees. When they pour this copper out for it to form in this blocks in which it's kept, there's a dome. It needs to cool naturally. So the dome is L-shaped because wind blows mostly in this direction. So then the wind filters through the dome and blows naturally over the copper so it can cool down. And the ambient temperature is 80 degrees. The guys there wear hot suits, right, to work there. So we've got lights that are about 3 meters high, and the lights pop every 2 to 3 days. So we've got a group of guys called Lumpy Boys. They go and they replace those lights every 2 to 3 days, 32 lights. I changed 18 of my lights in there. I don't know, when was it? February 17th, 2007. Yeah. It's close to 3 years now. Not one has burned down, not one has stopped working. They're still there. They're still going strong. And I can even show you a video where I was there recently, actually last week Thursday. And I put up more lights for them. So they can take on the temperature, they can take the heat. They're actually robust enough for it. And in this casing, I believe they will last more than the 3-year guarantee I'm giving. Yeah.
I must apologize. Knowing where it was made, my first assumption was it's plastic. Because it's such lightweight, you lift the lid up so easily. I thought,
It's aluminium.
but it's aluminium. Okay, well then that makes my question null and void.
No, I wanted to ask, yes.
Hi guys, very good. Pedro, I would like to know, other than just being in the business personally, what do you do to stay focused? I mean, we can all say, yeah, I'm focused or I'm looking at this thing, but what do you do on your downtime to make sure that when you are working, you're not distracted?
Firstly, I've got people's salaries that I gotta pay. See, it becomes very different when you're an employer because now you have people who depend on you. So this is what I tell the guys. I need to go out there and get contracts, get deals for us to get work and get salaries at the end of the day. In other words, I'm doing what I need to do so that your families are kept fed. You guys are doing what you guys need to do so that my family is kept fed. You guys see how we work for family. So when you become an employer, you don't have that time to slack off. You know, I practically sleep with one eye open because you're always thinking about the next move for tomorrow. Okay, honestly, and that is part of being a business owner. You know, you need to go out there and find business. It won't come to you. Sometimes it does, but only after so much work. You know, so you actually can't slow down, and yourself, because of putting yourself in that position, you make it part of your everyday. Now, for me to de-stress, I look at my wife, I look at my boys. You know, it's motivation enough for me to keep going. Now and then I go to the gyms in the morning and so forth, you know, just to keep the regulation of life and so forth. But otherwise, when I get into the warehouse, it's my pride and joy. You know, I started this in the garage as well. And then now being able to walk into a warehouse, you know, and be like, this is my sanctuary. It keeps you going, it keeps you motivated. So striving for success actually keeps you going. Yeah.
Besides like lighting, what else can your technology, like which is for lighting, what else can it be used for besides the office?
Okay, so I wrote over here that NAMLAX, the company has patented lighting solution. Oh, this one is the other one. There's one where we have patented that we have patented the idea of it, so it can be used in various different ways. So if you say lighting, you know how vast lighting is. So lighting, we're looking at lightings in cars, in aeroplanes, at airports, at stadiums. These are big hindrances that we actually think that the patented technology can curb. You know, I mean, you've got very big lights and high masks and so forth. So we want to try and see if we can get our lights of that type of quality and that type of intensity, still reducing the kind of consumption that they're paying for. That is the goal. But eventually, or me ultimately, I would like to have my lights put up in Boeing, you know. And I'm just saying, but you're saying apart from lighting.
Yeah, like in general.
Well,
Yeah.
oh, what's gonna keep me going? Well, currently, right now, the NAMLAX brand is only looking at lighting. We've got a few that are going to be coming out hopefully mid next year. The downlights are going to be out by December. And then mid next year, we're going to be looking at traffic lights and security lighting and so forth. And then from there, expand as well, more into lighting. We haven't looked at taking NAMLAX in any different kind of direction yet.
That's what I was
Oh, you meant in lighting. Sorry, yes. So we're looking at down lights, we're looking at security lights, we're looking at traffic lights. We're looking at quite a range of lights, and then as the population starts taking into that, we will then want to look at like automotive lighting, something like that. I don't know, actually. We just, you know, the brand can't die. It can't die, so let's keep it going. Yeah.
How exactly, or how does one go about registering a patent?
Patent. Okay, so you guys have a patenting governing board here in South Africa. Sure. I'm working with lawyers based in SA, in Joburg, sorry. They're called Smith and Vessels. They're doing my patent for South Africa as well. So you guys do have a governing board. I'm just not sure on the name. All you need to do is, so they give you the criteria that you need to have. And yourself, when you fill out the patent document, you need to also give them sort of a draft of the other patents that are in the same field. For example, patents registered for LED lights, they are there. People just went around and changed a few things, like LED lights started in 1960. You know, that's when the TV came in. I didn't even know LED lights started. But anyways, they were the size of plates. Okay, and they reduced it, and people kept patenting it as the smaller they made it, and then the color came into it, and so I learned on how they did that, and then I had to point out of all these patents, this is how mine stands out, this is what mine does. So they need to understand how different yours is to what's current. So the principle and logic is still there. But because I'm able to deliver 220 volts through this LEDs, I'm actually able to reduce the current that goes through them, and they can actually burn at the maximum, rather than having an inverter that burns them at their standard threshold. And they can actually withstand it and do what they're doing, you know. These are the small things that you list in your patent, and then you show them what the difference is, so that they can actually say that, okay, it's worth a patent. But if you want to patent internationally, you know, it takes 2 to 5 years, because it has to circle the globe. It will cost you close to 80,000 to 100,000 every country that it goes into, and so forth. The good thing is that some countries belong to a board. So, for example, if I patent in the Netherlands, a lot of the countries that fall under the Scandinavian thingy, they're all under one. So I don't have to do it in Denmark and in Holland. You know. So some of them come out cheaper, but
Thank you so much, Pedro.
Pedro.
That was such
Please
a great fireside chat. Like, thank you guys for coming. Pedro's going to stick around for a bit, so if you have any more questions, he's going to be here. You can get a drink, coffee, anything. Take pictures with Pedro. Of course, you're going to take pictures. So, yeah, stick around a bit, and we can do that. Ask him any questions you just thought of after the interview. But otherwise, thank you so much for coming out. Stay looking out for what we have. Our next speakers, we will be back next year. This is our last one for the year, so I'm so excited. I feel like we ended off on a high note. We need to be thinking of inventions for the next few months. Otherwise, thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Woohoo!